Haven't heard of AAD before? Well, now you're going to, because they make mounts such as this. This particular version features 35mm main caps with 34mm inserts. They sell inserts of all different sizes for about 30 bucks, so even if you go with something like this, you could always step it down to a smaller size if you see fit. Why do I have it set up like this as opposed to for whatever I would be running it for, which is typically 34mm? Well, I bought it like this, along with the scope, which I'm going to be reviewing probably in the next 6 or 7 years because I just keep putting it off because it's not going to do so well. Anyway, back to the mount. This is clearly more precision focused and permanently mounted, as you can tell from the four very large torque bits on the side and the absolutely massive locking claw. On top of that, you have three very large blocks that are going to intertwine with the pick rail absolutely flawlessly. Got a heavy recoiling rifle? You don't need to worry about this mount going anywhere as long as you torque it down properly. It's absolutely fantastic. Weight-wise, it doesn't feel too bad either. Coming in right at 9.3 ounces with a set of inserts, the only thing I have to compare it to is a spur mount, which comes in ever so slightly lighter, even though this is set for 34mm and is roughly the same size, albeit the spur mount has an even larger locking claw on this one, but only has one block for pick rail right there. Now you can buy rings if you want to set up more traditionally for around 150 bucks, which they do look really nice when I get my hands on a set of those. The height, for anyone wondering, to the center on this 35mm version is 1.45 inches. And as the overall price, well, for this particular model, it's $300, but I think for the 30mm version, it's like $280. So albeit not that expensive. Granted, I do have $30 worth of inserts in here, but just like something like the spur mount, you can see it has a little bubble level in the back, which is a little hard to see in the light. I do wish the bubble was a little bit smaller. It's very large, but when you get it just right, the bubble touches both ends of this little window perfectly. If you're curious about what the inserts look like, they're just these nice little plastic pieces that have a pretty good finish to them. They feel nice, but they do feel like you could easily break these, particularly these, because these are only half a mil thick. So be very careful with those. As far as the caps themselves, they are beautifully machined and nice and thick. You have a lot of material down at the bottom, so you don't have to worry about deforming this if you torque it down too much or repeatedly, which is always nice. And no, those are not steel inserts in there. That's just raw aluminum. But beautifully machined. There are no tooling marks whatsoever, and the anodizing is very even. Also, it does have a little bit of texture to it, so as you can see with the nail test, it will pick up a little bit of it, but it cleans off pretty easily. All of the information you need to know is right there. 35mm, 1.45, 20 MOA, made in USA. Now, I'm always harping on about how to level a scope in a mount, and for that, you need a big base. For the way I like to do it, with a caliper, you come in through the side, tilt it up, and you hopefully have a nice flat bottom to your scope, and you can get it nice and level. There's never been a wider base on a mount that I've ever gotten my hands on, and this is absolutely beautiful to me. Speaking of mounting up a scope, it's time to now put a scope in this and see how well this mount will return to zero. Not that it really matters all that much, but the more repeatable this thing is going back to zero, that typically means the more precise this thing has been machined, and thus the better quality it is. Time to check the mount. So currently it is only snug to the rail. I want to make this as fast as I can. I'm going to reset it 3 times. There being 4 screws on the side, this is going to take a little bit longer than I want. As you can clearly see, the scope is loose. I'm going to put slight pressure going forward. I'm going to snug up all 4 of them. Then I'm going to start in the middle 2 and then work my way to the outside. I'm torquing these down to 35 inch-pounds because these are big screws. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Let's get our first initial 0. I think, well, that's not ideal, but because this thing is a cant mount and this scope, which is the Razor HD Gen 2 3-18, is already predeterminedly set up for one of my other rifles, this is as good as we're going to get because I don't feel like readjusting the 0 stop. All right, so we are at the 4 or 5 o'clock position on the outside of that ring. Let's loosen these up. Move it around, as you can see. Forward pressure, snug these up, same exact order. Going 2, 3, 1, 4. And let's torque these down. So 2, 3, 1, 4. That looks really, really close. Do these again. Loose, forward, snug. Then 2, 3, 1, 4. A little bit more left. Again, we're loose. Forward pressure, snugging them up. And we're torquing. 2, 3, 1, 4. And we're pretty consistent. So all things considered, this mount returns to zero very well. So if you have one of these, you need to take it off. You shouldn't be too far off from your zero. So there we have it. As you can see, this thing performs extremely well. And with the scope mounted inside of it, it looks absolutely fantastic. And with that, thank you very much for watching. See you again next time. And a very huge thank you to all of my Patreon providers. Without you, this wouldn't be possible. If you'd like to help support the channel but don't want to join my Patreon, I completely understand. But you can still help support by using my affiliate links in the description below. Thanks again for watching.